All right, Cowboy Nation. After looking at this game, the second time, I would say we fought back. We found a way to win. The defense showed up, and defense win championships. Now I know we can go back and forth about Mike Nolan, and we do have a right to be angry and upset at the way the defense looked like at the first start of the year. But I'm really thinking that they are buying into what Mike Nolan is saying. And it could be, hey, Mike Nolan coaching for his career, for his legacy, his name, with his back against the wall. And we all know that when you do that, unthinkable things can happen. Flat out, unthinkable things can happen. This defense, they clawing at the ball, they fighting, they playing with effort. It seems like night and day. If you turn on the first few week tape and then you turn on these last few game tapes, and it could be just us playing against teams that really don't have a fight to say in the matter. But the Eagles wanted to win. They wanted to win. So I'm not going to be sitting here saying that, hey, they tried to lose this game. Shout out to Andy Dalton. I got to give him one of these.
This is Sparta!
I got to give him one. We do. I know I give him a hard, difficult time, but he went through his progressions. He took what was needed that was on the field. He didn't force many things. Now, the one pass that he did got the INT on, he could have led CD a little bit better. They didn't have a safety over the top. But looking at the complete game, Andy Dalton, he gets one of those. Let me give it again.
This is Sparta!
He get a Spartan war call. Let's give a war call to the offensive front, the front five, the offensive line. There was one play that Terrence Steele got ate up on, but collectively speaking, the offensive line did a wonderful job. And shout out to Ezekiel Elliott, looking like an Ezekiel Elliott out there. Now, what we got to do, we got to look at this thing and say, well, this is not an Ezekiel Elliott versus battle. It's like everybody like what these music artists do these days, this versus battle. I think when the hot hand is rendered, you give it to him. Meaning that, hey, if Ezekiel Elliott is hot, you give it to him. If Tony Pollard is hot, you give it to him. If they can't get things going, then you change it up. That's where you have a change of pace back. Now, I do know that $90 million is a tough pill to swallow. But that is what the Joneses decided to do. We can't control none of that. And I love seeing these guys pushing each other. But it's all a team game at the end of the day. Football is a unique sport. And I love the way that Brian Broaddus broke it down. It's a strange lady. Maybe it's a lady with hairy legs. I don't know. But that's the reality of it. Now, looking back at Michael Gallup, he had the hip pointer last game, right? He had to get moved out, and they moved in some other guys. But Michael Gallup came with authority this game. He attacked the ball aggressively. Shout out to Coach Bird. Man, he said, hey, he want his guys to attack the ball. He want those guys to really be aggressive just like that. And I do know that Coach Bird is his off-season coach, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? We had him on the Late Night Hype show. Cedric, Wilson, all of those boys. And I know Cedric didn't do a lot this game, but it's just a mentality. And shout out to, let me give Michael Gallup one of these.
This is Sparta!
And we got to give Amari Cooper. Man, he put a guy in a blender. Can I put Amari Cooper and Lamb in the same sentence?
This is Sparta!
Both of those guys deserve that war call. They played outstanding. Especially Amari Cooper. We knew for sure that they always gonna put the best cornerback on him. And if not, they're gonna roll some type of coverage his way. And it's gonna free up and it's gonna open up for the Gallups and also for the Schultz as well as the Lambs to be open, to have that one-on-one. And what they got to do, collectively speaking, is take advantage of that situation, take advantage of that opportunity. And they do just that. All the time, they do just that. They take advantages of those situations. And I love what I'm able to see from those guys, especially out there on the gridiron. They are playing up to par. They are. And there's something about a motivative factor. I do know that you guys just got to be prepared for all this week. They're going to talk about the smashing of the watermelon. They're going to talk about it. And there's nothing we can do about it as Cowboys fans but just sit back and listen and watch all of the major media talk about that. But they're not going to talk about the unity. They're not going to talk about the bond. They're not going to talk about that these guys are establishing a culture that can go far beyond the football field. These guys are fighting for one another. I saw this past Christmas holiday that even Dak Prescott gave everybody one of those Segways or a go-kart, whatever the kids drive around these days. That goes a long way. That goes a long way. These guys in this locker room are like family members. They stepping it up. Like I say, shout out again to Diggs and AB, our version of AB, Anthony Get Down Brown, and Randy Gregory. And D-Law is being a solid player that he can be. Oh, I forgot. Let me give
This is Sparta!
Let me give that to Gallimore. 96. He's just not flashing. He's there. He's a beam of light out there. He's making the opposing team offensive line think twice. Say, okay, now they got to double up. And now what we got to do when we get to the draft time is compliment these guys. I know that earlier picks, you could get a lot out of it if we so happen to lose out in these sorts of things earlier in this year. But I believe that you can still get playmakers. We did the mock draft several times. Farley, he dropped all the way to the 18th to the 19th pick. I also was able to pick up a J.C. Horn, in the second. There's ways, and I'm not sitting here saying that will happen for us for 2021, but let's let this thing go all the way through the chambers of the reality, and then we pick it up from there. Now, I do know that we played against a rookie quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He was fantastic for the first drive, and in the second drive, he was okay. But this team is developing something, and it's called unity. Those boys are playing for each other. They are drowning out what the white noise and all of the other BS that's been going around as it relates to as the outside noise, collectively speaking. And they're focused, they're lasered in. I said at the start of the year that it takes time for continuity, but if you are focused enough, there's nothing different between a laser beam and a light bulb. They both beams of light. But if you can channel and focus that thing in together, baby, nothing is impossible for these guys to accomplish. Now, granted, we made a lot of mistakes at the start of the season, a lot of bonehead decisions on this and that. So now we got to be at the mercy seat of the Washington team versus the Eagles team. But we still got to take care of business. So when we face those Giants, we got to give them our best still. We still evaluating guys. We are. Shout out to, I want to say, Cheeto Awuzie. He got burnt on the play, but he made a key tackle in this game as well. As a defensive back, you will get burnt. Let me repeat, you will get burnt. But you got to have a short-term memory. And just because Watson, but Jackson can take the top off the defense, that's what he's supposed to do, even at his old age and his many miles on his body. But that doesn't mean that you give up and you fold up. You continue to fight, and you got to have that short-term memory. And that's what I was able to see out there, that the defense continue to fight. And that's all I'm asking. Now, I will be remiss to not bring up Jalen. My thing is, with Jalen Smith, shout out to him. He had me putting the glasses on earlier today. My thing is, we would just have to sit back and let this thing play out. It's hard to grade this team as related to individuals, especially how they're working together as a unit. It's hard to single out individuals, although we saw, looking back at the game, how they made the adjustment and put CJ in to spy on the quarterback. Shout out to the caller who called in about that and put that on my mental so I can look back at that. Let's give this team time. Shout out to Mike McCarthy. I still, even though things are where they are at right now, I still have my reservations. There's nothing wrong with that. But we'll figure this thing out during the offseason. Shout out to the Cowboys. Thank you, everybody that tuned in and watched the game. All right, so this is what I want you guys to do, if possible, if you're rolling with me. Point out me 3 guys that really spark your interest. And I'm not talking about the draft. I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Point out 3 guys. Don't have to be all on the offensive side or the defensive side. Point out 3, and if you got 5, point those out. Shout out again to the Dallas Cowboys for fighting through and clawing through. Let's continue to grind and shine, Cowboy Nation. My name is Law Nation, LAW Nation. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, share this content. Let that friend, neighbor, foe know where to go when they want to tune in to Cowboy Sports Talk and Beyond. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Let's go, Cowboy Nation. We out.